Hi there, guys. This is going to be my last video of the evening, and just to round off my Stephen King book reviews this evening, I'm going to focus this one on Revival. So, Revival is a book that I listened to on Audible about 2 months ago, and I'd never really heard of this Stephen King book before. This is kind of one of those books where it's just prior to the new Stephen King 21st century resurgence, where the last 5 years he's been pretty good and knocking out some excellent books. This one is a little bit before that. It was still a very enjoyable book, but I will say I think that I did give it a decent rating overall. I was very impressed with the narration of this book, Revival. David Morse, who is a brilliant actor as well, he's been in quite a few Stephen King productions. He was in The Green Mile. He's he's a very good on-screen actor, but a fantastic narration voice as well. It's a very short story. It's 13 and a half hours approximately on Audible as well. But effectively, the story. How can I even put the story? I mean, the story was about a young boy who sort of got taken by a charismatic young pastor in his local village, and recounts sort of an experience with a mysterious electricity power source um, through this pastor, and the effects of this sort of supernatural power source had repercussions both for the young boy, Jamie Morton, as he grew up, and also Charles Jacobs, who is the pastor as well. Um, and it's just the impact on both their lives down the years, from initially meeting as a child and pastor, Newtown pastor, all the way through to the end. So, just to give a little bit of background, so Jamie Morton is a young boy we meet initially, loves. I think it's 1960s that he's in. I think it's the 1960s. Um, but you've got Jamie Morton as a young boy, musician. Um, they go to church regularly, a really sort of wholesome, sort of old-fashioned white American outlook on the time period of a lot of cultural conservatism, but a very sort of more innocent time in the sense that to ground a horror story, things can easily be taken away and run away with some incredible stories, I'm assuming. So, just like this Revival. But the pastor who turns up there is Charles Jacobs. He is very charismatic, a little bit on the edge. But his pet hobby is electricity, harnessing the possibilities and the usage of science and cutting edge scientific. Uh, Being able to use electricity to heal people as well, and that's something that Charles Jacobs shows Jamie Morton and his family and his friends as the youngsters as well. I think that the initial relationship between the young boy character and Charles Jacobs is pretty strong. You can see immediately where they sort of hit it off in just a bit of a mentor and a student type of relationship that they have. Unfortunately, where you get the knife coming into the niceties of this is there's a tragedy befalls Charles Jacobs where his son and his wife are killed in a car accident, and what is an obvious sort of crisis of faith moment for anybody, um, let alone the town pastor. He has a massive crisis of faith moment. Um, there is a bit of a meltdown for Charles Jacobs. He has a really his sermons start to have this sort of fatalistic, negative, nihilistic tone to them after the accident, and losing his wife and child. And eventually, he is advised to leave town, and that he's not welcomed by the congregation nor by his denomination, because unfortunately he's not able to sort out himself. Um, since the accident. So, anyways, he melts away from town. Jamie goes on a bit of a downward spiral as he sort of gets into his teenage years and is exploring. He's exploring, you know, girls and music and even substances as well. I think he hooks onto all of it, and his experience of seeing the power of the electricity and the demonstration of this sort of secret electricity that Charles Jacobs exposed him to was really intriguing, but they sort of drift apart their lives. Whereas later on, uh, whereas later on, Jamie happens to see Charles Jacobs, who by this point is now like a travelling carnival carny, who has got his own stall at the carnival, who is demonstrating certain things, like a bit of a sort of a cinema projection using the secret electricity to people at the carnival. It is frightening to people. However, there are some amazing results people are getting from them, where they feel initial bursts of energy and that they can do anything, or that they've been given an amazing opportunity, or I don't know, something in their lives has turned around in a real positive, before then a gradual decline, which I don't know whether that is just it isn't explained that is the design of the electricity or the power source itself. But anyways, later on we see that the reconnection between Jamie Morton, the young boy, and Charles Jacobs, the pastor, who is now the carnival member. Now Jamie is struggling with substance use at this time. His sort of music career is tanking, albeit it is somewhat successful, and he's involved in it. He's not succeeded by any stretch of the way that he's hoped. And with Charles Jacobs, he's hoping that the secret electricity, in which he's seen a demonstration of, is able to sort of cure his drug addiction, um, and he's able to do that. So now his name is Danny Jacobs. So Charles changed his name to Danny Jacobs, and Jamie teams up with him. And Jamie is very, very intrigued by what what this Pastor Jacobs is now doing, and what is he getting out of this secret electricity? What energy source is he harnessing this from, and how is he effectively, what is the motive? What is he doing? Because this is quite a destructive, as it seems anyways, a destructive sort of end result after being exposed to the power source. So Jamie teams up with a local researcher to try and find out a little bit more about the secret electricity, and also now Danny Jacobs. So I don't really understand what this source is. Is it like a free energy, like a sort of cosmic energy? Is it karma? Is it the power of God? Is it like a universal sort of electrode that you're able to tap into? We just don't know. It's not really fully explained as to what it is. The only way I could possibly describe it is kind of like when you see Indiana Jones and the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the power of God that comes out of the Ark of the Covenant. It's that type of, you wish that it's powerful and you can get exposed to it, but at what cost? And also, there's nothing guaranteed if it will go your way or not. So we have a bit of a crisis of faith for Charles Jacobs, or Danny Jacobs as he is now, and the electricity was a bit of a cure or crutch for him as well, whereas Jamie's was the heroin and the drug use. So there's that sort of duality in which both characters are using a crutch source for something, and whilst at certain times as their lives interact and intercede with each other, they both then lean on each other and each other's dependencies in order for each other to get through their own lives as well. What we found then, as the book goes on to the final climax, is that the other side of where this power source is emanating from is multi-dimensional, and that as Charles Jacobs is about to expire and is about to die, is exposed to a really, really fucking crazy side of what is reality, or the other dimensional hellscape which is awaiting people after death. Effectively, that there's this sort of race of ant-like creatures who use a slavery and tyranny form uh, to rule over the souls or the people who you are in this other dimension, which is where the electricity is emanating from the power source. Um, so it's a very, what I found about this book was it was a very, very, in a way, kind of depressing, but a very nihilistic way of looking at things and messaging. There are some really redeeming parts of the book, such as when Jamie is meeting his first girlfriend and then reconnecting years later as well. The relationship between Jamie and the researcher as well is excellent in the book. I think that it's one of these odd ones where you normally see this type of thing happen, where you get like a couple, a male and a female perhaps, and they're just toxic for each other, and whilst they may love each other or they may have an undying, unbounded interest within each other, maybe even a lustful attraction. I wouldn't say that this book goes that far, but there is certainly like a cosmic rebounding between Jamie Morton and Charles Jacobs throughout the book that inevitably results in a sort of a negative interaction, a toxicity that neither of them can really shake off, but it is very, very interesting nonetheless. And the sort of the supernatural element of this power source is quite interesting as well. But I mean, overall, it's a very, very unique book. I thought my rating for this book, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I don't think that this is one of his stronger books. It's probably one more of his sort of his mid-level, mid-tier books for Stephen King, I would say. Probably like a tier 3 rather than, tier 1 would be something like, It, The Stand, those types of books. Level 2 would be like, the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, which I thought was pretty good. If It Bleeds and so forth later. And then these types of books then, so like Revival, maybe Desperation would be like the third tier of Stephen King. So yeah, I mean, it's an enjoyable book overall anyways. I mean, very well narrated by David Morse. It's quite intriguing. I mean, as you get to the final climax as well, and to understand what's on the other side. But maybe perhaps the explanation of what is on the other side is the inevitable breaker of the crisis of faith for Charles Jacobs in the book anyways. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting character study between the two's relationships. And I hope that you do manage to pick up this book if you are interested in it, just to round off your knowledge of Stephen King books. It's a very interesting take, I think, on this particular story. So yeah, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. If you wouldn't mind giving the video a like and to subscribe, I very much appreciate it. And stay tuned for some more videos as well. I'm going to be doing a couple of movie reviews pretty soon as well. There's been a lot I've watched over the last few weeks, and I need to catch up and get some